Well, hello there, EFD squad, and welcome back to Continental Club, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football. Joining me is the Dutch to my rudder. It's Patrick van Straten, and this despicable mess on the end with his feet on the table, the lack of respect, is Joe Tomlinson.
How you doing?
How am I doing?
How?
Let's just get this done. First question comes from Don Armand, godfather of the nut world, and he's asked that can we finally say that the Premier League is no longer the most competitive in Europe? I think that's because Manchester City have currently opened up an 11-point gap over Manchester United in second place, whereas in La Liga it's only 5 points. In the Eredivisie, only 5 points. In the Serie A, only 1 point separate Inter, Juve and Napoli. And in Liga, it's 9 points, so pretty sizable.
Large.
Guys, is the Premier League more competitive than it's ever been before? Or is Pep Guardiola, has he ruined it?
I don't really get this, man, this question, because City haven't won the league yet. They haven't won the league since the 13-14 season. So, after a few seasons of City winning the league by 10 points, maybe we can say the Premier League isn't competitive anymore. But he's going just on the basis of the title race, and that doesn't make sense to me because there's also the race for the Champions League places. There's also relegation. So Serie A, maybe it's tighter at the top of the league, but Benevento are going to get relegated in about January. Same in Germany. Germany is pretty uncompetitive, actually, to be honest, at the top. And Köln didn't win a game in their opening 12 or something, whereas the bottom of the Premier League, I think there's something like 6 points now between 11th and 20th in the Premier League. That to me does sound pretty competitive. There are 6 teams every season going for 4 places in the Champions League. That sounds pretty competitive as well. And in the last few seasons, the last 3 seasons probably after the end of this one, we'll have had 3 different title winners in 3 years. So that to me also sounds pretty good.
Not to mention Burnley currently occupy 4th in the league, which is absolutely mind-boggling. Joe, what do you think to the competitiveness of the Premier League?
The Premier League is definitely the most competitive in the whole of Europe. I agree that the title race is over and done with, but the whole of the rest of the league, like Pato was saying, I think Arsenal are actually closer to the relegation zone in 4th or 5th than they are to the top of the league. That's how close the rest of the league is. Man City are a freak team this year.
Yeah.
It's like a once-in-a-generation side at the moment. I think they've dropped 2 points all season. It's unheard of. The rest of the league is still super competitive. Teams are going to top sides. You look at Burnley. Burnley have got results away at Liverpool. Did they get a result? No, away at Tottenham, away at Chelsea.
They drew away at Liverpool, I think.
And that doesn't happen very often. I completely refute the claim that it's lost its competitive nature. Yes, Man City are running away with it, but both in monetary stakes, in points, in entertainment value, I truly believe the Premier League is by far more competitive than any other league in Europe. I don't think there's many other leagues where you can watch 16th, 17th go away to a 4th place side and really give them a hell of a game. We've seen West Brom this week go to probably one of the most dangerous attacking teams in the whole of Europe and shut them down and keep them to 0-0 in Liverpool. That's an impressive result. I'm not sure that happens many other places.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think there's very few leagues in the world where the Champions League places aren't a foregone conclusion. There's been a few surprises around Europe this season in Valencia and Lazio, but you're sort of expecting them to drop off to a certain extent, aren't you? I think Valencia maybe with a good shout, but Atletico and Real Madrid are putting together fine runs of form now, aren't they? And Sevilla too. Who knows? Maybe, I think, is it 5 English clubs in the last 16 of the Champions League at this point? Who knows? Maybe the deeper they get into the Champions League, it might affect their league form and make the domestic scene a little bit more unpredictable. But at this point, the league is Manchester City's to lose, isn't it? I think second place is still up for grabs.
Top 4's up for grabs as well.
Yeah, even the Europa League spots in England is fairly interesting. When you see a team like Leicester go and smash Southampton 4-1 away, and Southampton are a team who Arsenal struggled to contend with the week prior, the week before that, it does show you that there's a lot of variation and it is far from predictable. The Premier League is set in 2018 or 2019 as well to inherit, if that's the right word, another large sum of money, isn't it? The TV deals, the revenue is only going to increase. So and that's going to benefit all the teams in the league, not necessarily just the teams at the top. I think the teams like Stoke, teams like these sort of middle of the road sides can outspend people or sort of spend as much as the likes of Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich at this point. So it is pretty scary to think what the Premier League could become. But Pep Guardiola is just that good, isn't it? He's just that good, isn't he? What do you guys think? I have nothing left to add. My mind is absolutely shot to bits. Let us know in the comments below. Next question comes from Inter Ultra 3, and he's asked, how have Inter Milan turned things around at the start of this season after being so bad last season? Now, they're top of Serie A on 40 points. That's one ahead of Juventus and Napoli. Last season, they only finished on 62 points, coming 6th or 7th, I believe. And they had 3 different managers, didn't they? Including that ill-fated spell under De Boer. Had Pioli as well. Don't know who the third one is. Don't care. They're the only team left in Serie A not to lose a game. That's 12 wins and 4 draws under Spalletti.
Incredible.
And they're one of 4 teams left in Europe on unbeaten streaks, Pato. What do we put it down to? Is it just Mauro Icardi's fine form? Is it Spalletti? Is he a genius? Is it a culmination of things? Explain to the good people at home what you think.
I mean, Spalletti's definitely a great manager. Like, Spalletti, pretty much, it seems, if you give him decent talent, then he will finish in the top 3. I mean, with Roma, he got, I believe, a record points total when they finished on something like 86 points.
Yeah,
I believe they outscored like Napoli and Juventus. Maybe that wasn't last season, but the season before. I haven't really drilled into Inter's numbers. I don't really know what their expected goals numbers are. I don't know what their shot numbers are. But as a general, Spalletti, he puts together a pretty solid defence, and what he really does is specialise in getting really high quality chances for his strikers. If you look at striker tallies under Spalletti, they're almost always exceptional. Dzeko obviously got tons of goals under him, and Icardi's doing it now. He's going at a goal a game. He's really exploding this season. He was a guy who was already producing at a high level. The thing about Spalletti is he's kind of restructured the midfield. Like, Brozovic was out in the cold a bit last season. He's come in, João Mario producing at a pretty high rate. He obviously decided Kondogbia wasn't for him and used him as a bargaining chip to get in Cancelo at right back, which seems smart, even though he hasn't really been starting there, nailed on.
They've only conceded 10 goals in the league, so pretty watertight defence as well. With Skriniar coming to the fore, his form's helped them out this season, hasn't it?
But I do think there's also a little bit of air in their numbers at the moment. So we talk about them being one of the 4 unbeaten teams left in Europe's top 5 leagues. That's great, that's really impressive, and it is because they're good. But on the other hand, if you saw them play against Juventus the other day, then you see that they pretty much rode their luck in a game where they were firmly second best. But you know what? Spalletti put them in a position to ride their luck. I don't know if I certainly don't think they'll win the title, but I would put money on them finishing in the top 3. I really do think Spalletti's great. He's the kind of guy who you'd expect clubs like, I don't know, Arsenal or maybe even Chelsea, if they lost Conte, to be looking at.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of hope it continues. It seems like if he just switches to any big club in Italy at the moment, he'll get them producing. So
certainly a quantum leap forward from last season, isn't it? Joe, what do you think, Twins? Any thoughts? Anything to add to that?
I agree. I think it's majority down to Spalletti. I think Spalletti last season was a phenomenon. 90 goals his side scored in the Serie A. I think it's like 13, 14 more than Juventus, and Juventus have one of my favourite attacking lineups in the whole of Europe in Dybala and Higuain. So I think this season he'll score not 90, but he'll get up close with Mauro Icardi. I think Mauro Icardi's gone something like 24, 18, 22 over the last 3 seasons, and I'd be surprised if he doesn't get up close to 30 this season. Fantastic striker. Personally though, I'm not sure they can hold on to him past this summer. I think this might be the summer Icardi finally goes, you know what, I've given it the best shot into. I know he said in the past he sees himself as a one-club man, and occasionally his relationship has been strained with the ultras, hasn't it, behind the scenes. But Icardi and Spalletti is sort of a match made in heaven, like Pato is talking about. And also a few other players in that Inter side that have been really, really good. Vecino's been good, defensive midfield. Borja Valero's been very good in there as well. So he's getting great numbers out of some players over the last few seasons that you thought, a number of times I thought, is this Valero's last season? How long has Valero got at the top level? And now he's producing at the top of Serie A. So I think that's testament to how good Spalletti is.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe that squad's a bit underrated.
Yeah, he was decent for Fiorentina, wasn't he, Valero? And I think what's most impressive is that Spalletti's done it without spending
huge
a ton
money,
of money.
100%.
He's come in and he's getting the best out of that squad, which were sort of in free fall, weren't they, before? It does help when Mauro Icardi's hitting 75% of his shots on target, which is outrageous if unsustainable numbers. I mean, who have Inter spent big money on of late? Gagliardini, he was last January, wasn't he? £25 million.
João Mario.
João Mario was. What was João Mario? Around 40.
Yeah.
Kondogbia was around 40 as
Skriniar
well.
was pretty expensive.
Gabigol was what?
Skriniar is in his mid-20s. Gabigol hasn't he gone out?
Gabigol. I don't even know what he's doing now.
I believe
he's
on
rotted since he came from Brazil in Italy.
But yeah, clearly there's not a lot of cash to spend there at current, despite the new ownership. They're being run a little bit more frugally than their neighbours AC, aren't they? But getting much better results. And as you said, he's kind of switched it up to that 4-2-3-1. We saw that he liked that Aroma firm base, but like a good supporting cast for his main man, the number 9. And yeah, Candreva's been great. He's getting the best out of people like Ranocchia, who were on loan at Hull last season. Perisic has been consistently good, hasn't he? Not watched an awful lot of Inter this season, but from what I have seen, they just seem well drilled. And they weren't great against Juve, were they? But they still tried to play attacking football against Juventus.
And let's not forget Juve are one of the best sides in the whole of Europe. So
yeah. But there is still a gap to close in terms of the quality of that squad and the quality of Juventus over the course of the season.
But Napoli didn't do it overnight, did they? Napoli are the closest contenders. But what do you guys think? Do Inter have it in them to win Serie A? They put themselves in a very good position. Let us know in the comments. Last question comes from James May, and Captain Slow Purveyor of the Shit Shirt has asked, what is the big problem at Borussia Dortmund? Was it all down to Peter Bosz? And who should get the job next? These are some difficult questions this week.
bloody hard.
Difficult, but we like a challenge. He was sacked by Dortmund, wasn't he? After losing to Werder Bremen, who were then second bottom, compounding an awful run that they went on after a very, very good start in which he set all sorts of records. There's now no Dutch coaches in Europe's top 5 leagues. I'm sorry,
mate.
Not surprised.
You alright? How do you feel about that?
Keep your chin up.
I'm just not surprised, mate.
Is there any Zimbabwean coaches? Otherwise, you're, fresh out of options, aren't you?
Don't think so.
Subsequently, they've appointed Peter Stöger as the interim manager. He was the manager at Cologne. I believe he led them from the 2nd division to 5th in the 1st division, but did fairly poorly with them of late. So, somewhat of a surprise appointment, but he's seen as a safe pair of hands. Apparently, Nagelsmann is taking over at the end of the season, which I think we can all agree would be brilliant. But personnel-wise, they had a lot of injuries, didn't they, Pato? When you've watched Dortmund, particularly in the Champions League, because I'm guessing that's when you would have watched them, what seemed to be the problem? Was it those injuries? Was there anything else obvious on show?
I do think they're a bit naive defensively. One of my issues with Bosz is I'm not sure he's much of a tactician. I think he can go out there and set a team up the way he wants to play, but what I've noticed with him is quite often when Dortmund have been giving a team trouble in the first half, that team will make some minor adjustments at half time and be way better in the second half. And Dortmund don't know then how to respond. In the sort of managerial chess game, Bosz is not great, is my feeling. I didn't really like him as an appointment in the first place. I thought that you saw all his problems summed up in that Europa League final against Man United. Because it wasn't just like they played against a team that was better than them. They also played right into Mourinho's hands. They played like an old Wenger team against Mourinho, where they just pushed up and up and up, and then United just cut through them like butter. It was easy. And I don't know, it's strange. I understand it if they felt like they had to get rid of Tuchel because he'd fallen out with the board or whatever. But it seems very strange that a board as organised as Borussia Dortmund did that without seemingly having a top-class candidate lined up. I think they could have probably aimed higher than Peter Bosz, got somebody who was a little bit more proven at the top level. And so, I don't know. I feel like they're kind of paying the price for bad research in the summer. When I've seen him, I think he puts players out of positions. He likes to play young players, but sometimes that's at the expense of actually playing the best team he possibly could. He's played Weigl out of position. Guerrero, he doesn't seem to know what to do with. But you look at the squad, and the squad's fantastic. The squad's still really, really good. There's talent all over the place. It's hard to pick out a particularly weak area. And I don't know, if Sturger just does like a sort of halfway decent job, gets them back into the Champions League, and then Nagelsmann comes in next summer, then pretty much this season's been absolutely fine. Like, they don't care, because if they get Nagelsmann, I think they'll just take off again.
Yeah, I mean, bodes very well for Bayern, doesn't it? That RB Leipzig and Dortmund both in poor form, and a challenge even for the Bundesliga appears to be over before it started. Joe, do you think it was the right decision?
To sack Peter Bosz? Yeah, I think it was the right decision to sack Peter Bosz. I completely agree with Pato. I think he shouldn't have been appointed in the first place, and the future planning from Borussia Dortmund at the stage of axing Thomas Tuchel was not good enough.
Almost like it was an emotional decision.
I just wonder whether behind the scenes at Borussia Dortmund things aren't quite as settled as they once were. In the past, we've kind of thought of Borussia Dortmund as being this extremely well-run club that make a lot of good decisions, sign a lot of good young players, but
yeah,
I just wonder whether they're not that same side anymore. Some of their recent signings, obviously they've done good business over the recent years, looking at Ousmane Dembele, Guerrero, but we're also looking at players like Schürrle, Mario Götze. They've lost the chief scout, they've sacked Thomas Tuchel. I just wonder whether it's not quite as settled as it once was behind the scenes at Borussia Dortmund right now. Yeah. And I think there are potentially bigger problems at the club. I think over the last few seasons it's been like 18 points behind Bayern, 25 points behind Bayern, 33 points behind Bayern, odd numbers like that. And I just don't see them, I haven't seen them for a couple of years now gaining on Bayern. Obviously, Thomas Tuchel in his final season did really well, won a Pokal, I think he finished 10 points off. But without him...
That was their first trophy in 5 years though, right?
Yeah, I don't know, I just feel like behind the scenes there's bigger issues at Borussia Dortmund right now than we potentially know about. And I'm not convinced that their business model of buying young players, selling them on for profit, buying a young player, selling them on for a profit can go on forever successfully. I think at some stage that starts to fail, and I just wonder whether it's starting to fail now.
I often wonder, as a neutral, someone who's not done, an excessive amount of reading on them, behind the scenes, what are their hopes and aspirations? Because there was kind of an air of defeatism in Klopp's last season, wasn't there? Tuchel seemed to always be at ends with the hierarchy. And they're, I believe, the 15th richest club in the world, but still refuse to partake in big spending. I wonder if that's a frustration of the fans. I don't know. Let us know in the comments below. But yeah, I wonder if they're just, at the moment, like if Watzke is happy with Champions League football, happy with finishing behind Bayern, not from a sporting point of view, obviously he wants to challenge for the title, but in terms of his vision for the club, I sometimes wonder what it is, because yeah, bringing in players like Schürrle at the age of 27, 28, when he's had injury problems, doesn't necessarily strike you as very inspirational, and upsetting your manager to sign someone like Alexander Isak is odd.
Yeah, and then to lose that chief scout.
Yeah. The chief scout who went to Arsenal, I remember reading a story about him the other day where he was begging them to sign someone from Porto.
Oliver Torres.
Yeah, Oliver Torres.
That's the reason
he
thinks
he's a genius with the ball, but that just didn't come to fruition. So there's a lot of, it's not very harmonious, is it? But I just wonder if they're gunning for the title at this point. Who knows? Maybe RB Leipzig can galvanise and push Bayern all the way. It doesn't seem like Borussia Dortmund are going to, but here's to hoping. Let us know where you think they're going to finish in the comments, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. A lot of shoots today. Apologies if this has seemed somewhat beleaguered. So guys, that was this week's Continental Club. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sending in your suggestions. Do the same for next week. Lads, what else is happening? One of you jump in. Put me out of misery.
I think we're both dying. Like, that's the big news, really.
That is.
We're both dying, which is why this has been pretty low energy.
This could be the last time you see us on camera.
Yeah, so rejoice at that. But yeah, check out 90+1 Facts, where we've got Pogba, we've got El Clasico coming up soon. I don't know when this is going out, to be honest. I'm done.
When is this going out? Friday. Yeah.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.